Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Art of Cybersecurity series. I'm your host, Chirag Joshi, and today I am delighted to be joined by a person who does not need much of an introduction in the neck of the woods I am around. He is somebody who is well known in the cybersecurity industry. He's somebody who is a speaker, a presenter, an author, a board advisory member, and he does all of that while maintaining a very senior role in one of the leading organizations in the world. So with that, I welcome Abbas Kudrati to the Art of Cybersecurity for this conversation, which is around the art of adaptive cybersecurity. Welcome, Abbas. Great to have you join us.
Thank you, Chirag. It's always a pleasure to connecting with you and talking with you. Thank you for having me today.
Definitely. So, Abbas, I gave a very, very short bio of yourself, but I'm sure the audience would like to know more about you. So hand it over to you. Could you just give a few insights into all the great work that you do?
Yeah, thanks, Chirag. So as you said, I'm Abbas Kudrati. I work for Microsoft as their Asia Pacific Chief Cybersecurity Advisor. Been with Microsoft for the last 4 years. And apart from Microsoft, as you said, I'm also a part-time professor. I'm a professor of practice with La Trobe University and also industry professor with Deakin University. I'm also advisory member for Deakin and La Trobe and many couple of other startups. And when time permits, I do have a hobby like you to spend these days writing some books and sharing my knowledge to the upcoming cybersecurity budding students who are exploring their further opportunity and to share the knowledge which we have learned out of our experience for the last 25 years, right? Just to give back to the community and share the insight, what journey we have seen together in the cybersecurity space. So these are some of the things I do.
Now, it's a very very humble introduction. You've done a lot, and I think just the fact that the desire and also the time you invest in giving back is such a vital thing, and just sharing the knowledge. We know the authorship journey, writing books is not easy. It's taxing, and far too often it's more about the desire comes from sharing what you learned the hard way, so somebody can pick up the lessons. So absolutely great to have you. So look, I know you just got back from RSA 2022. So it must have been a fascinating conference. It's obviously one of the largest conferences, cyber conferences in the world. So keen to get some of your insights. What were some of the takeaways that you have from the conference?
Definitely. I think this was my last visit was in 2019 before the pandemic hit. And so that time I visited RSA, and after that, for last 2 years, I attended them virtually, which was not a great experience because when you go to RSA, the main fun part is going to visit all the hundreds and hundreds of vendors which are lined up, showcasing their new shiny box and new technology, what they have. Absolutely. And also connecting with all the friends around the world who ties together there. And in our Indian language, I call it as a Kumbh Ka Mela. You will be familiar with that term very well.
I am.
It is the biggest fair of cybersecurity where people around the world who comes once in a year meet and greet, learning lot of connecting with lots of executives from various companies. So highlight what I've seen, and I was really surprised to see that even because pandemic is still going away and there are a lot of countries and people who are still hesitant to travel, but kudos to RSA conference team. I mean, they did a very fantastic job in maintaining the distancing part and checking all the COVID vaccination part. But still, the number of audience which I had seen in 2019 as comparatively was much less. And I could make out there are more vendors on the floor than actual people.
Oh, interesting.
That was one of the surprising things. And Australia had a good number of attendees. I had met so many people from Australia, at least 22 people who had traveled from Australia to RSA conference.
Nice.
To touch upon the theme which you said, walking on the floor, I could see a lot of vendors these days talking about XDR. I have seen every fourth or fifth booth talking about XDR as a extension detection and remediation kind of a portfolio, similar to what Microsoft has, Microsoft Defender for endpoint. Similarly, there are a number of vendors are there.
Right.
Second theme I saw is on API security.
Okay.
That looks like another area where security folks are focusing. How can you secure your various API in a multi-cloud environment and a number of applications which are now moving from on-prem to the cloud side? So I was surprisingly to see that there are a number of startups in that space who are doing the similar things with a bit of a difference in that. A third theme I could see is also focusing on zero trust. Zero trust, still people are talking about. There are a number of technology vendors who are focusing in terms of how they can support organization zero trust journey from the technology point of view. So that was another theme I have seen. And regular players like Microsoft and CrowdStrike and AWS, they had their own big presence, inviting customers to come and explore and the investment what they have made in terms of what are the new release they have done, either from the product point of view or the new features point of view. So there were quite a few announcements from their side as well.
Yeah.
And regular ones from the human element that was not forgotten. I had seen quite a few organizations focusing on cybersecurity awareness, how they can improve the human firewall, as we talk about. So that was another theme I noticed. It was fascinating to see lots of new players in the market, especially from the startup point of view, apart from what we have the big bugs like Cisco's and Palo Alto's and Microsoft and others.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's definitely, I mean, Kumbh Mela is a good term to describe. It's just a gathering of so many people and, you know, a lot of good ideas too, I guess, which comes to bear. So the three themes that you mentioned were extended detection response, XDR, API security, and zero trust. So, you know, on that topic, I really think one of the intent for this episode, which I was keen to explore, is adapting, because there is so much which is changing in our world right now from a business perspective, digitization, technology, people and our ways of working. So adapting to the new world, it takes an art to it, right? It's not necessarily a formula that can help you. So I think we need to adapt to that. And you mentioned zero trust. So let's just take that theme because you have a book on that as well. So and as you know, zero trust sometimes, you know, has been used as a bit of a buzzword too. Whereas, you know, true practitioners like yourself, you know that it's an approach. It's a philosophy more than a tool or a solution. So with that, how do you make sense of zero trust? How can people simplify it? And then how can people practically use it in the context of their organizations?
Oh, sure. A lot of questions in one sentence, and if I try to answer all of them, I have to write a book. And definitely,
there we go.
all these answers are detailed, explained in the book which I wrote, which is called Zero Trust Across Digital Estate, which is right now available for pre-order. Hopefully, should be released in next 1 month or so. So, as you said, zero trust has become a kind of a buzzword. The concept has been around for a while, more than 10 years actually. However, it was in bits and pieces, and every organization used to follow in their own way, right? What is zero trust? I would say zero trust is a technology concept is at the last, but the first part of zero trust is about the principle and the processes which you want to follow, right? It's nothing but a bunch of principle. Microsoft has been working on a number of principles. If you take it NIST, or if you look at the old Jericho Forum, which was announced as the first step in a zero trust journey, from talking about the demilitarization and micro-segmentation of the network. It started from the network segmentation as a pillar. Later on, it was adopted as an identity-centric approach. So even today, if you look at the vendors division, set of vendors talks about zero trust as a zero trust network architecture, focusing on a network part.
Right.
And the second set of vendors, we talk about zero trust architecture, which is nothing from an identity-centric approach, which is what Gartner, NIST, and Microsoft kind of organization which are advocating on. So talk about the core three principle of zero trust to summarize and to save the time. First principle zero trust talks about is that you should have a philosophy of an assumed breach. You have to have a mindset that adversaries is already within my company. Which is nothing. Me and you have been around in the industry for a while. We had an onion skin methodology, defense in depth approach. It is the same thing wrapped in even a principle that have an assumed breach, have a layered defensive approach. If first control fail, you have a second control in place which can protect you. Second principle we talked about is a least privilege. Now we have been doing a least privilege, role-based access control, need to know, need to basis kind of an access control since many years. However, in zero trust, it is very important because target attacks are happening on identity, and we have to make sure that you have the minimum or no administrative account in your organization, and access is given based on need to know, need to do, or just in time, just enough access. So in case one account is compromised, damage is not catastrophic. It is a simple account compromise, which goes to the first principle, which is trust no one, verify everyone, or explicitly verification of every signal you collect from identity and device to get access to your environment. If you look at it, how we used to work traditionally, we take our laptop or a device, we go to the network in our office, we first connect the network, so connect first and then authenticate, authorize.
Yeah.
While in zero trust, we have flipped the concept. You have to first authenticate, authorize first, and then only get connected to your network via physical, via VPN, via internet. So this is a whole change of mindset, philosophy. As I said, the cultural change. People need to adapt to apply these three principles broadly within the organization.
I think that's well said. I mean, you kind of succinctly described it to what it is, and you in your answer too. I think it's very apparent that there is no one size fits all. There is no one right approach. I think to me, when I think about it, for me, it's more of a guiding principle. It goes back to the foundations that you should anywhere have: is knowing your business, knowing your assets, because otherwise, how do you even protect it?
Absolutely.
But also practically starting off is really about how your organization is structured, the culture that you have, and what is the most meaningfully for you to kick off. You don't have to do everything, to your point, in like one big go. There are different elements to it, but I think it's a good principle. To your point, it's been around for a long time. But I'd like to separate out the technology from actually the value add to the business. What problem are we trying to solve? Because I think that is a good way to think about it. And I think you kind of nailed it in terms of describing the differences, but also there's no really one approach. There is not a network approach, which is the right approach, or the identity approach, which is the right approach. I mean, it's a combination. It depends on how we want to get about it.
Absolutely.
Great stuff.
And it all goes back to the risk-based approach, right?
Absolutely.
You cannot boil the ocean saying that I'm going to go into zero trust journey and start and end the project. It is a journey in itself. And the one recommendation I always give them, identify the top 5 risks or top 10 risks you want to tackle first, and see how it matches with your zero trust principle, and tackle those 5 use cases first and then move forward. It's a step-by-step journey.
Brilliant. I think that is a very pragmatic way to approach it, because then you can prove the concept too of what we're trying to achieve. And, I mean, we could spend a whole hour on it, so I won't. But, I think the one thing I'll say is, for some organizations, culturally, the word trust means different things. And the word zero trust itself might be controversial for some organizations. I think it's important for people to remember that it's just a set of principles, and you can call it whatever you want to, but the idea is what you described is trusting, and every transaction being kind of standing on its own feet and not relying on a previous one. I mean, that's really the sense of it. So thank you for that. The other one I want to explore is really, one thing which I like about what you do is the big picture aspect. You talk to CISOs and senior executives all over, not just in Australia. So I'm keen to understand, like, how do you visualize the big picture of cybersecurity? And what are when you talk to people, how do you gather actionable insights into kind of developing your solutions for that big picture?
Yeah. So see, for many years, cybersecurity had been looked as a technology service line, right? And if you look at the past CISOs, or even today in many organizations, the CISOs are very technically focused. I'm here to just do the vulnerability assessment, patch management. I want to make sure everything is secure, and I've done my job. But today, the role of CISO is much more elevated from just a technical geek who is sitting behind the desk and managing a team to a business level conversation.
Yeah.
So now we need to look at, from the business point of view, what is my business trying to achieve? What is the business objective? How that objective is translated into our technology objectives and vision and mission, and how I, as a security person, as a CISO, want to align to my technology and a business vision. What is my business trying to achieve? So look at from bigger picture, from what business is going to achieve, trying to achieve out of it, and try to support that business in their initiative. Either it could be a zero trust, or it could be a cyber security mesh architecture, which is the new buzzword, watch out, coming soon. Or could be your new next gen shiny UEBA tool, or next gen firewall, whatever you're thinking about. That could be the last, but look at aligning yourself from the business objective.
Yeah.
The second thing, we need to start talking about the language which our business folks can understand.
Yeah.
Right. So CISO role has been now elevated. You are no longer just on the technical side. Look from the business point of view. Try to align what they are doing. Understand the business. That's the number one step. and then focus on how technology can help you achieve that, improving the business.
Yeah.
So from my point of view, bigger picture always start, and I said I'm a risk management person. I look at from the risk point of view, what are the top business risk, what are the crown jewel my business is trying to protect, what are the new market segment my business trying to enter into, and how are they going to serve? Is it an internal customer, external customer? What kind of data they are collecting? And then I will align everything to them in terms of, here is a technology solution which can help you on that, but start from the principal, process, people,
Yeah.
and then look at the technology at the end.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. And when you were saying, like, I was stopping myself from nodding my head vigorously, and the reason is because in my upcoming book, which is called Seven Rules to Be Exceptional at Cybersecurity, essentially this is how we start. It's about the business, it's about risk, and I think more and more we need to, for some folks it's second nature, but I think there needs to be a broader recognition of it. It doesn't matter what your role is in the organization. You could be a technologist even, but ultimately you are there to serve the business. So if you understand that, I mean, your job and the way you function changes, because to your point, the role of CISO is elevated, the role of cybersecurity is elevated. Like the amount of public profile the industry has, investments that are going into it, the service lines that are being created, it necessitates a bit of a mindset shift for cybersecurity professionals. I completely agree with you on thinking the big picture there. So on that theme, when it comes to, one of the aspects, and actually one of the other books, which is called Threat Hunting, and it's based on threat hunting in cloud, right? So one of the recent, well, it's not as recent anymore, but the big trend and a shift we are seeing is a move to public cloud. Is we are seeing that aggressively happen across many industries. People have now kind of gone past the mental barriers of public clouds and reservations around it to understanding the utility and the power. So with that construct, I'm keen to understand and just explore, like, what does threat hunting mean for people who don't know threat hunting? And then how does it relate and how does it differentiate itself in cloud environments versus what people would expect in a traditional on-premise environment?
Absolutely. So that was the whole idea of writing that particular book, that there was a lot of misconception that, do I need to do threat hunting? First of all, let's go let's say 5 to 7 years back. We used to run our security operations center. Everything was from an outside, so inside view. Our job was to protect our organizations from any kind of threats and vulnerability which are from outside to organization. We never used to focus on things which are going within the environment or from the cloud point of view. Cloud was not very, it was there, but not huge adoption. And threat hunting used to be kind of a luxury service during that time. We used to have once in a year call some consultant company who are specialized in that. They would come and do the assessment in my environment, look if there is any adversaries sitting there, or could be because of a virus attack within the environment, or could be because of forensic activity. So it was very reactive. And it used to be costly affair, not possible to have that kind of technology and the knowledge within the team which you have. But now things have changed. Now the network is opened up. You're no longer working behind the firewall and a castle and a moat situation. Now you are connected with the mobile device, contractors, vendors, public cloud, SaaS application, IoT device. Your threat landscape has tremendously changed and opened up. That means your attack surface is increased. You are no longer attack surface. Before, attack surface used to be one application, website, and a firewall, and that's it. And just manage those three things, monitor those three things, done. So threat used to be managed that way. But now, because of a huge attack surface every organization has, you have to know that is the adversary already in the company? Talking about zero trust, assume breach principle, right? You have to have a mindset, because what we have seen in the case of SolarWind and many other attack, what we have seen, 90 to 100 days adversaries is within the environment. They sit there quietly and then they launch their attack. We call it human operated ransomware kind of a scenario, right? So having that situation, it is not possible to just having a SOC or a SIM and monitor everything. It's going to give you a result. You need to be more creative and more proactive in terms of hunt in your environment. That, hey, do these IOCs or any kind of behavior happening in my environment which I should know? And now it is possible, because now we are connected with the cloud environment. It is not same approach which we used to have on an on-premise environment. Now we need to think, because of the connectivity with the internet, we are constantly connected on your device, on your phone. So we need to have a proactive manner look at the solutions which are already available in the market as a part of your SIM solution. It comes with the built-in features. That
Right.
was the whole objective of writing the book, saying that if you are using Amazon or Google or Microsoft technology, the cloud provider, they have already baked in all the threat hunting capabilities. You
Hmm.
don't need to spend $1 million and hire a consultants or having a large team. Your existing team can be elevated, and you need to create all those automated run books and playbook using the technology already owned by you to proactively go and hunt for adversaries if they are already there in your environment.
Right.
That's
Right.
the concept, from going very reactive to going proactive, from going manual approach to automated approach in doing the threat hunting.
Great. And is there a common example or an actionable kind of starting point for people to do the threat hunting exercises that you would recommend?
Yeah. So the very first approach when you're thinking of a threat hunting is you need to identify all the scenarios,
Yeah.
or we call it first of all scenarios, persona, and hypothesis. In the language of threat hunting, we call it hypothesis, right? What is hypothesis? First, you need to know your business, that what could be the kind of specific threats to my business.
Yeah.
If it is a banking environment, then I need to have a threat intel feed from something called FSISEC. They
Yes.
provide you very financial industry specific threat IOCs and intel, which you need to feed it into your existing solution, what you have, and start creating the hypothesis that I want to check everything which is coming from email side, or from the network side, or from
Yeah.
the internal side. So the hypothesis and the scenario creation is the number one step. And then and that has to be very specific to the industry or the region or the geographical location where you are. So that's a number one step. I mean, we can go the whole 9 yard, but I will leave it for people to read the book and learn more about
I
that.
think it's great. I mean, look, and to your point, threat intelligence, threat hunting, it's not, while it may seem like big words, it's not a luxury thing anymore. To your point, at the very least, you should be aware of the the threats unique to you. And I think threat intelligence is a good way. And you mentioned FSI-SAC. I mean, there are so many good advisories you can sign up. I mean,
And
in
you can
this
get
day
for
and
free.
time,
Yeah,
if you're
available
not
for
aware
free
of your
from
world,
CERT. Yeah, ASD, they share a lot of intel for free. You just
exactly.
consume it. Otherwise, vendors already provide you with the free intel from their product, but you can feed in other resources as well.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where even the more smaller organizations, or which are resource challenged in their
Yeah,
cyber teams,
absolutely.
they can leverage all these some of these open source or open government advisories that are available to them. So I think you all you need these days is a bit of a desire to mature your program, because unless you do that, you're flying a bit blind in the context of the emerging threats. So well said. The one thing which I want to pivot to now is you mentioned. While you were talking about the big picture and getting the business aspect, the risk aspect, the one thing I do want to glean from an actionable takeaways perspective is, what advice would you give to a CISO who you feel is technically, very technically inclined and does not appreciate the risk aspect as much as they should? How would you influence them? Like, how would you go about it? Because I'm very interested in knowing. So I'm pretty sure you must have had these conversations. So how have
No,
you
no,
done that?
absolutely, absolutely. See, first of all, no two CISOs are same.
Yeah.
That's what I have seen in my experience, right? And no two companies require the same set of skill set from a CISO. So it depends upon organization what they are looking for and what is their definition of a CISO.
Great point.
Some organizations want a leadership role calling CISO who can take the organization to the next level or the next maturity of their cybersecurity. They want somebody who can communicate to the board level. They want somebody who can understand the business and align all the initiatives on that part. I have seen some CISOs who are very technically focused because the organization itself is very technically focused as well.
Right.
Organizations which are born in the cloud, and they want the CISO to be very hands-on, knowing all the threats, knowing all the vulnerabilities, and what are the various risks to the business from the challenges and how the whole cloud architecture works. So I have seen both side of it. But one thing common, as I said initially, that CISO has to understand the business which they are trying to protect. We, as a CISO, we no longer can sit behind the screen and say, my focus is only technology,
Yeah.
because that's not helping organization. You need to speak at the right level, with the right audience in the language which they understand, and having that kind of a risk management mindset, which is the way to go, rather than just focusing on technology. Technology is available. They will help you to elevate what you want to do it. But not understanding the business correctly and not aligning with their objectives is a recipe to the failure. And personally, I have been through that journey as well at a very early stage in my early career days, having being an ex pen testers and technical person. When I joined my as the first role of a so-called CISO title, very heavily technically focused. But I learned it in a hard way, saying that that's not going to work, because when you give a 200 page of a vulnerability assessment report to the CIO, first thing is going to look at your face, how I'm going to fix it.
No, well said. I mean,
that was a light bulb moment for me. I said, oh, I think he's right. I'm not talking in the language which he and the CEO will understand. See, I can't go to the CEO saying that here's the 200 page of vulnerability report which CIO and the team is not fixing it. He's going to look at me, what does it mean to me? It has to be
that is exactly it. What you just nailed it. The so what aspect, why does it matter, is such an important aspect. And that's just front and center, right? I mean, far too often when you're kind of caught up in the operational grinds of running a security function, I think that's something which I remember, to keep on back of my mind is so what? Like all of this has to have a so what. And I think to your point, enabling business, managing risks.
Yeah.
And in my experience, if you can speak the language of finances and risk, it makes you a very, very strong leader when you communicate with
very well aligned with the team. You become their partner rather than just a role in the team.
Definitely. And look, I know like we've covered a fair bit of ground, and I appreciate the time, so I'll close off now on this last question. And this is a question about you, about what makes you you. You mentioned all the great things, be it advising boards, be it being a professor, running a successful function. What feeds your growth and learning mindset? Like, how do you keep up with everything that you do, and what drives the desire to do it?
Well, I would say a lot of credit goes to the organization I work for, right? It's like yogurt. When you work in an organization which is such a fast moving, surrounded by such a great talent, you feel yourself that I need to step up in my my growth path as well. You just can't have sit with the people. So that happens every day. I mean, I speak to people, peers of mine across the world, and when you talk to them, you will realize, oh my goodness, what a journey he has. But as a matter of fact, each one of them are unique. So that also pushes me that I need to step up in my role, where as a chief security advisor, when, for example, Chirag calls me next time, what's happening, I should be on top of it. That's a responsibility I carry, working as a chief security advisor for a big brand like Microsoft, to answer that question: what's happening regionally, what's happening locally, what's happening globally. Tell me tell me the story. That's the value add I bring it as a part of my role, because my colleagues, my friends in the industry who are a CISO, they are focusing in protecting their organization. They may not have luxury of all the wealth of information and knowledge which is available worldwide, and that's why partnership with person like me, I can help my customer CISO to elevate their level, that okay, these are the new thing you should know. Watch out for this particular attack. Watch out for the new trend coming up. I just throw one trend to you, like cloud security mesh architecture. Still coming, but watch out for that space. There are few things coming in that space as well. So I need to keep myself very abreast of all the latest. It requires a lot of reading, talking to a lot of my peers, including my competitor peers, our own engineering people, and the leadership team worldwide. And Microsoft being a worldwide, I get a lot of this information sharing globally, just rather than just focusing in Victoria or Australia, which keeps me keeps on pushing me every time I wake up every day in the morning.
Ah, that's great, right? I mean, just that fact of engaging with people is such a key, but that desire to know the trends so you can help other people who may not have the time or availability or the resourcing to be able to do that. I think that's absolutely vital. So, Abbas, thank you again so much for the time that you've given us. It has been always a pleasure having these conversations with you. There are lots of actionable insights that I'm sure our audience will benefit from. So with that, thank you again for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Chirag. Always a pleasure to be on your show, and looking forward for many more in the future as well.
Thank you very much.